Have you ever tried to look at a sentence without certain words that connect them and notice how they wouldn't make sense? Those words that connect these sentences are called logical connectors. So we're going to be looking at the different types of logical connectors, as well as an example to indicate just how they come into play when you when you're reading your books, when you even writing an academic piece yourself. So logical connectors are also known as linking words. They link sentences to each other, or direction words. Okay. They are linking words or phrases that establish a logical relationship between ideas within a sentence or between sentences. So that is basically just self-explanatory because it's a logical relationship, meaning that it only makes sense for them to be there in order to show you how these sentences are connected to each other. They improve the flow of writing, that is a smooth movement from one idea or piece of information to the next. So they also, when you're writing a paragraph and you go into the next paragraph, those paragraphs needs to be a flow from the first paragraph to the next paragraph to show the connection. That's where logical connectors come in. And they're also a very important part of academic writing because they glue sentences together. So sentences will not make sense if they stand there in isolation without logical connectors, and we're going to discover just how. There are so many of them, but these are some of the examples of linking words that you might also know. Obvious ones like because, although, however, for instance, in conclusion, first of all, in addition, therefore. So these are just some of them. These are not all of the examples, but these are some that will give you an idea of exactly what type of words we are talking about when we're talking about linking words and logical connectors. There are different types of linking words. So we have additional signals, time signals, change of direction signals, cause and effect, conclusion signals, and illustration signals. Additional signals are those that indicate to the reader as you're writing your essay or your assignment piece that you're going to add information from the previous point to the next point or continue on the same topic by providing further details. So, for example, we might say that the dog is crossing the street. The dog is run over by a car. The dog is crossing the street. When crossing the street, then the dog was run over by a car. There should be a word there that will link those sentences to show that the sentence is linked to the next sentence. And then maybe you can talk about how it was run over by a car and move on to the next sentence about how you took it to the vet. Furthermore, I came by and saw the dog lying on the street and I took it to the vet. That word furthermore will then indicate that you are adding on to the topic that you were discussing in the first paragraph. Time signals indicate the order in which a series of events has occurred, or stages where a process occurred, and they can be used to indicate that you are providing supporting points in a particular order. Okay, that's self-explanatory. So if you're explaining something and you say, firstly, this is what happened, secondly, that's what happened, and then thirdly, and then lastly, this is what happened, then those words would be your time signals. Then your change of direction signal will indicate to a reader that you are introducing an opposing or an alternative idea. So you're switching gears to something else, although it's still flowing from the previous paragraph. Then illustration signals. An illustration is when you paint a picture. So these signals indicate that you're going to provide an example or an illustration. So for example, this, and that, that word will then be your illustration section. So that now you are about to illustrate, to paint a picture for the reader to create a better understanding in the form of a picture. And then conclusion signals are also self-explanatory. conclusion, when you conclude, that's when you finish off something. So just like when you're writing an assignment and you have a conclusion at the end, conclusion signals indicate that you're going to conclude your paragraph or that particular topic that you're dealing with, or in some cases they may indicate a relationship of cause and effect between two ideas. And cause and effect are, for example, your because will give you the effect. It's part of cause and effect to show you that this is what happens, this is the effect of what happened in this particular scenario. Okay, and then in this passage, I'm going to read this passage without the linking words so that you have an understanding of why these are so necessary in your paragraphs or in your assignments. The linking words have been highlighted in yellow, so I will just read without them so that I will not finish the passage, but you'll just have an idea of how sentences that are in isolation do not make sense. They need linking words in order for them to show a connection between each other. And it goes like this. One of the greatest advantages of living in an urban area rather than a rural area is the availability of electricity. It is a great advantage for those who live in urban areas. It provides them with access to household appliances such as electrical stoves. Those living in urban areas can easily simply switch on electric lights that provide them with safe pollution-free light at night. They can work or study at night, and their properties have greater security. The lack of facility of electricity in the rural areas is a great disadvantage. People living in these areas have no access to modern electrical stoves. They must use candles or paraffin at night, which are not safe. Provide poor lighting for study purposes. As you can see, already it sounds like you're just making sentence after sentence and making a point after a point, and there is no relationship between these sentences. But if you read it with the linking words, it will sound much better. One of the greatest advantages of living in an urban area rather than a rural area is the availability of electricity. In the first place, it's a great advantage for those who live in urban areas because it provides them with access to household appliances such as electrical stoves. And furthermore, those living in urban areas can simply switch on electric lights that provide them with safe pollution-free light at night. Therefore, they can work or study at night, and their properties have great security. However, lack of the facility of electricity in the rural areas is a great disadvantage because people living in the areas have no access to modern electrical stoves. Consequently, they must use candles or paraffin lamps at night, which are not only unsafe but also provide poor lighting for study purposes. So you can see it gives it a tone. It shows the reader the tone of the paragraph, and it also shows the relationship between these sentences, and they do not stand in isolation anymore because you've linked them together. So the linking words that I have highlighted there, you will then look at the signals. Like in the first place is your time signal. In the first place shows you that now we are listing events. And then because is cause and effect. Because people living without electricity um people living with electricity cannot start their poor lighting because they have no electricity. Furthermore, therefore, you'll see all the other signals. Change of direction signals there is however, which shows you that now we are changing it. We are still on this topic. However, we are changing our direction by placing the signal, the direction word however. And then that is how your linking words work. Linking words make your piece make sense. They show the relationship between your sentences and what direction your academic piece is taking.